Hi. So my next book is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. And the prompt is a title that starts with an H. Again, my prompts are really silly, but whatever. This book was intense. Um, Definitely a horror story. Um, I've read other things by him, and they're like sort of like goofy, funny. Oh yeah, kind of. Sorry about my hand. Kind of scary, but not. Mm, this one, forget about it. Um, it it the house they're talking about is um, a deceased parent who collected dolls and that creepiness, but also they had puppets. Puppets attached to people. And people can do things that dolls and other inanimate objects can't if they're being possessed. Um, it was a lot of body horror, almost to the point of torture porn. I was not expecting that. I mean, I read his first book, which was Horror Store, which not all I mean he takes like these traditional sort of tropes and updates them to like current things that are happening. Horror Store was about basically a haunted IKEA. They didn't call it that, but I mean it was, a household goods store with a maze like uh, sort of everything. I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, but I mean it was IKEA. He didn't say it was, but it was. I mean it even had a map. It was an IKEA. Um, and it was funny and it was goofy and it was weird, that and it was more like it was more like things it was like an unmappable space. And things started happening and they couldn't get any help. Anyway, this story, it was very funny. Um, it was also not, and the idea was great, but there wasn't anything like really memorable about the scenes. Um, it was sort of it was kind of bland, which I took to be, well, it was an IKEA. IKEAs are kind of bland. But this is the thing I would take from this particular book. Um, if you're going to look into it for a writing example, as the progression of an author is phenomenal. And it's not just because it went from a sort of blandish story to this super aggressive, intense body horror thing. Um, Basically everything improved from the first to this book. The pacing was excellent, where he it was primarily two characters, siblings trying to sell this house. Um, that was their inheritance and fighting over it and stuff like that. But then just when it got like really outrageous, then he would pull back and add that secondary characters like family members and stuff like that, and sort of like he could really judge. I can go this far, and then I need to like give you a breather. Excellent. Um, the pacing was really good, and I don't know if he himself just learned how to be a better writer, or if he got a hell of a lot of help. Um, I would suspect both. I think that he has a very good editor, and maybe beta readers. I personally think beta readers are that's an awful concept. Um, I mean, the only one I ever heard of that would be any good would be Stephen King. He has his wife do it, and she's also a novelist. But I mean, it's his wife. She's not going to say, "Well, I would prefer this kind of story." That's not what she's going to say. Um, it's not somebody that's going, "Oh my God, I'm a super fan," and "Oh God, I really wish you'd write it like this." No, she's actually going to say, The other one was actually, and these are all horror stories, ironically, a book called Hex. I can't remember who wrote it. Scandinavian author. So jealous. That book also, I was probably like the best book I've read in the last 5 years. Um, Horror. Um, I guess I respond to them. And I don't read that many of them, but the ones I read are the top of the, again, these are all recommendations from people. Um, that one, he wrote it in his native language and it had been released. And basically, all the criticisms that he got, he then kept in mind when he did the translation into English. Now, that's a heck of a beta reader. I don't know if that's what, I doubt that's what it is. I think that it's uh, Grady Hendrix has just, grown leaps and bounds as a writer and also as a really good editor. Um, because the focus was fantastic and the precision. He wasn't overly wordy like Stephen King. He just kept right to the story and kept the intensity right up there, right up there, right up there, right up there. And I mean, he would give like the littlest like sort of hint of what's coming, just enough for you to dread it and go, please not, no, 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 and then oh yeah, and way worse than what you imagined. It's like, oh my, oh no, oh no, no, no. And that happened again and again. My mother was a massive Stephen King fan, and her favorite book was The Shining, which I just recently read in like the last 10 years. I grew up on Stephen King. I think it was 11 the first time I read one of his books, which is a little young, but she was obsessed with The Shining, and when she read it, she would be going, and like see a chapter like the elevator or something like that, and just had to stop because oh my god, she was so scared by what was going to happen. When I finally read The Shining, I was not scared, which is why one of the reasons why I didn't read it. Like Salem's Lot also took me forever to read because my father was absolutely petrified of it. Um, but sort of the the layout of that town, it's a made up town in Maine, kind of matches the town where I grew up, to the point where my parents were convinced that it was based on there, which I don't think it was. But and we moved into a brand new house, and they had the windows up. That's a vampire story. I had windows up, and because it was new, things were not precisely um, calibrated, and one of the windows dropped just when the vampire was knocking on the window. Apparently, my father just about had a heart attack when he was reading this. It's hilarious. Anyway, because they're so scared by those books, and I don't get scared by books. Um, I it took me forever to read them, and I didn't think they were that scary, either of them. This one I didn't think was scary either, but disturbing, very disturbing. I Torture porn type things I really don't like. Um, and it's all through this book. For that reason, I mean, again, really well written. And if you want to see progression as an author, I don't think he's written that many books. Maybe like 6 or 8. Um, Phenomenal progression as an author to go, especially from the first to the last. And I haven't read all his books, so I don't know how many, how, like, if you can see the progression through all of them. It would be really interesting to see that. Um, but although I'm not really interested in all in order. But anyway, yeah, it was really good, but really, really intense. And I would give high, high, high warnings to anybody to just read this book. I mean, especially if you read any of his other books and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be a funny little lark. No, this is not a funny little lark. This book was intense. Um, so take that as a warning and a grain of salt, but really good. Um, and that's basically what I thought of it.